Hey you guys, my fellow truthers, this is your girl Truth Seeker coming on here to just do the sisterhood review for episode 6 season 1. I've got my church lady look on here because I got some backlash for a previous video that I did on here. I got accused of trying to be a celebrity and being trying to be a diva, and everything. So when the church folk, when they come after you and everything, you gotta bring it low. You gotta bring it low. I don't mind the criticism from the church, because that's how we grow and everything. So I got my church lady and everything look on right now. Don't want to upset the church or nothing. So you know what, I'm just going to be me. I can't be anybody else. I am Christian. I love the Lord, and I'm devout and a worshiper of the Lord, evangelist even. I'm not going to compromise my Christianity in any way, so I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about the naysayers. Sometimes we do need the church to help us to get back level, get back to square one, to the basics, and get right. But I think sometimes and I'm learning myself even by watching this show. I love Pastor Tara. I had seen her in the earlier episodes, and I saw some traits of myself in there, being just so spiritual, and just really passionate. That's what I call it, passion. You being passionate about loving the Lord. But I looking at kind of like perhaps a mirror image, I don't want to scare anybody away or do a disservice to the ministry by being overbearing or anything. By nature I'm fun. I'm loving. I'm a happy, bubbly person, and I have separated myself from the world, as far as fraternizing and doing things that doesn't pertain to God. So I'm just basically I was attacked for getting on here. They're like, oh, you're trying to be a superstar, only Jesus is supposed to be a superstar. And I'm just like, I have a reason why I'm on here. That person who made that statement, they don't know the reason why I'm on here, but I do. So I'm not on here trying to be a diva. I'm not on here trying to be a superstar or anything, make a name for myself. I'm on here for a specific purpose, and I'm going to stick with that purpose and not listen to the naysayers when it comes to those type of accusations of accusing me of something that I'm trying to be, that I'm not. I'm not a diva. I'm delivered from that. But I definitely want to just enjoy doing what I am called to do for the Lord, and get on here and voice my opinion. Sometimes you need to outlet to just let your thoughts be known. That's fine. But anyway, but big ups to the church. I still love you, and the person who accused me of that, I still love you, hon. We all could work on some things. We can be too spiritual sometimes, that where we drive people away. And then when we're looking for support, we're wondering why nobody is there to support us, because you have driven them away with your spirituality, overbearingness of the ministry, to where people hate to see church folk coming. Well, real Christians. I'm gonna say real Christians, because there's a difference between church folk and real Christians. There are some church folk that are going to hell, to bust hell wide open. Matthew 7:21-23 lets us know that not everyone who says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my Father. And many in that day shall say unto me, Lord, Lord. So we definitely do not want to missed the boat. So let's get to the show and my thoughts about it. This is my honest opinion. This is True Secret. This is me being just me and saying what I feel free like saying, honey. On this Tuesday, February 5th, 2013, this episode of The Sisterhood, honey. Oh my goodness. I mean, if you missed it, I need you to go back, rewind, find it on YouTube when you get a chance. Look it up on TLC or cable, because, baby, I'm going to have to say wow and pow. No, that was a kiss side. The pow. I need a pow for that. Yeah, there we go. Pow. It was a hot mess and a half. Alright, baby. Okay, we're gonna start with we're gonna try to go in order. Y'all know how I do. I just kind of try to get to the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. Alright, this is again The Sisterhood, season 1, episode 6, Thou Shalt Not Brawl at the Bar Mitzvah. Pastor Dominique and Pastor Tara in the opening had a gathering at a pottery place for their daughters. They spoke about the incident at Pastor Delana's house and about the plantation welcome sign. They appeared for a moment to be a bit passive aggressive, with their anger towards one another, but in the end agreed to disagree, at least for the moment. Y'all know how those two are. In the next scene, Pastor Dominique and her husband Brian went out on a romantic date, and Pastor Dominique made known that she did not want to be in second place to God in her husband's life anymore, because that's how she felt. Like he was just so ministry driven and for the Lord, and he just wasn't giving her the attention that she felt she deserved as much as he was giving it into the ministry of God. I disagree with that, to a degree. I just feel like the head over man is God. If Adam had God's best interest rather than listening to Eve and following, what she said to do, to eat the forbidden fruit instead of what God told him not to do, I think we would not be in the mess of the situation of this world that we are in now. I believe that the woman is under the man. The man is the head, so the woman needs to get in line. It is a order that needs to be. There is a specific godly order. Okay, it's God, then man, the head, who is the man, then the wife, then the children, in that order. It is not, you're giving too much time to God and doing too much and being for God. No, honey, you need to get on the vessel with him, because when the day of judgment comes, you're going to be left behind. You need to get on board with your husband and put all those foolishness, things aside and do what you're supposed to be doing as the helpmeet to the man. It's not all about you, boo. Yes, that man is supposed to love you, God said, but you're not supposed to be his everything. You're not, I hate to bust your bubble. You're not his everything. God is our everything, not a man, a woman, not a child. God. So I'm gonna leave that where it is because it's self-explanatory, and I'm gonna move on. The ladies arrived at the bar mitzvah, and this will be the first time since the plantation gate that Pastor Delana and Pastor Dominique has seen each other. Dominique is already talking about ringing the bell and fighting and ding ding ding. She definitely a hot mess. But moving on, Pastor Tara and her husband Brian spoke life and blessings, beautiful blessings over their son Trevor, and then he in turn spoke a confirmation of receiving what his parents had spoken over his life. I thought it was wonderful. It was beautiful. It was inspiring and heartwarming, you know, to see that, you know, parents investing in their child like that. I just love it. You know, I'm gonna try that myself. Pastor D went on to make fun of the whole ceremony because, you know, she ignorant as all get out. You know, all she could do was sniggle and giggle, you know, and talk bad about it, all negative comments. But we're gonna consider the source, you know, of her foolishness, which is self. Anyway, moving on. The ceremony ended and everyone migrated into the banquet hall where the decor was of a presidential theme. It was nice. Very nice. There was assigned seating there, and Pastor Delana refused to sit next to Pastor D because she didn't want any drama. So she sat with her husband at another table. She said she didn't want to ruin the party with any potential unnecessary confrontations between her and Pastor D. I agree with Pastor Delana, definitely. You know, she did the right saintly thing, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. You want to deter away from the foolishness and mayhem, okay? And I'll get back into that later. The wise woman. I'm just gonna leave a pin right there and come back. As Pastor Delana and her husband exited the party, Pastor Delana's husband tapped Pastor D on the arm and said, "Take care." You know, Pastor D was upset by that. You know, she wanted them to apologize. She was refusing to apologize, y'all, because she feels like she needs to apologize and it wasn't her fault. No, I think that definitely, Pastor D, you need to apologize because you made the mess. Actually, Christina started the whole mess, as I said before in my previous video. But Pastor D, you ain't too big to apologize. Definitely need to be the bigger person in situations like that, you know. Even if you don't feel you was wrong all the way, 100%, still apologize. Okay, now we're entering into the Christian sex therapist session, BKA the sex fruit party. It was very eerie and inappropriate and uncomfortable for me, you know. I felt that was a little too private, too personal. Yes, you know, we don't have to be prudes in the bedroom with our husbands, but you know, that's personal. I don't want that all on the tube, and you know, with the bananas, and you too long with the banana in your mouth. What is this for? I don't need no coach. I don't need no director to direct a movie of my sex life with my husband. Thank you. My goodness. You know, but you know that little freaky pastor wife on the end, I told y'all I blotted her name out of the book of my memory because they just on another level of just freakiness. But anyway, I was with Pastor Tara with that, like, what is you doing? But anyway, moving on. Then they decided that they got the idea that they would throw Pastor Dominique a bachelorette party in Miami, and Pastor Dominique agreed as long as they would behave adventurous and fun, she says. Honey, when they touch down in Miami, Dominique, first thing she's looking for is the bar, Pastor Dominique, and Pastor Tara want to pray. That's what needed to have been the whole way through, prayer, honey, because baby, the next scene, it was a terrible mess. They went to a bar and Pastor Dominique got drunk and said, "Let's play a game." She said, let's play a game. Let's go off. And she really wanted to go to the strip club. She wanted to do that first. They didn't want to do that. So she said, y'all boring, y'all church folk, church ladies, the pastor wives. I don't want to. I want to do my own thing. I want to get wild. I want to do. Like, you see the man over there, he paying with cash. You know, she looking at the man's wallet. He got cash in his pocket. Let's go over there and, you know, play a game and flirt with him and try to get him to buy, you know, our drinks and everything. It was flirt game. So she went over there into the crowd of men and, you know, pulled out a couple meal and brought those men back to the church women table and just was flirting with them. I like this one. That's my favorite. This one right here. That's my favorite. Problem. Saved woman of God. What are you doing? And at one instance, I thought I saw a demon in her face. She had been drinking, and I seen something there. Definitely a spirit. After the commercial, I couldn't believe, you know, that it was, wow, really? Really? Pastor Dominique. Next thing I know, they come back from the commercial. She going out looking for an old pimp in the old neighborhood, in the hood, and crying because he ain't answering the phone. She ain't never talking about, she ain't never asked him for nothing. She won't see him and dig up that old, you know, grave that God, you know, delivered her out of. And I just really felt like I wanted to cry. Because the enemy is just so rampant, you know. He's so out here looking to devour our people, you know. I feel like Pastor Tara, you know, if she had her choice, I know they all getting a paycheck, so they all have to hang tight and, you know, together and be, you know, dealing with each other on that level and everything, but I wouldn't deal with it. You know, me personally, I wouldn't have a person like that in my inner circle. There's some people, Christians, that say that they would, but I just couldn't do it. You know, you taking me into, you know, the belly of the beast for what? God have delivered you out of that, you know. I could see if that's where they were and I'm ministering to them, you know, and but if you are, you know, saved and you know, are there and you want to go back and dig up them demons, we not to follow you, you know. We to try to talk to you, you know, pray over you, love on you. But if that's where you want to go, into the trenches, back into the belly of the beast, honey, be my guest. Free will. But I'm not coming with you. And I believe those women, they went, you know, they getting a paycheck to go, so they had to do what they had to do. Pastor Tara, I know she wouldn't even hardly be affiliated with nothing like that, you know. Not hardly, you know. Like I said, there's a difference. If the person is, you know, that's where you meeting them at, then yes. But you don't just stick a person like that in a group full of pastor wives and just, it's okay. No, and she not be talked to, you know, and corrected. They act like they afraid. Pastor Tara is the only one that seemed like she's not afraid to, you know, speak to her and tell her, you know, what are you doing? Don't do that. That's wrong. Stop that. What's wrong with you? You know, I'm just going to close out. You guys leave your comments and, you know, however you feel about it. But I'm feeling some kind of a way about that. And, you know, to be totally honest, after the second episode, I was going to stop watching, you know. But my grandmother, she called me. She watches the show, you know, and she called me and she's like, and I told her, I said, Grandma, I don't like how this feels in my spirit, you know. And she's like, no, you need to watch it because this is life and you need to, you know, see what's going on, you know, and what happens and what goes on behind the closed doors and this, that, and the third. So she told me not to blame her or whatever. I talked to her tonight. She said, don't be blaming me and everything. I said, I'm going to tell the America that you the one that made me have to keep watching this show and everything. And she didn't like that. But, yeah. So it is what it is. And I'm just going to close out to say that you guys, we got to pray for me, my family. I'm praying for you guys, and we can't let the enemy win. You know, our people, we got to get our people back for real. So just letting you guys know that I love you all, and I definitely will see you in the next video, and I look forward to hearing from you. I love your emails. I love your comments, whatever they are, and just be blessed and be a blessing to others. You know, go get your blessing. It's your time. True Seeker out.